All right, peeps. Welcome to the whiteboard. So, one of the common things that I see with people, most lifters, again, transitioning from that intermediate to advanced lifter, is going back to the well too often. And what I mean by this is they train for 3 months, train for a 12-week block, and they go back to test their squat, and it's marginally stronger than it was before. But you still see them fail in the same place. You still see them struggle at the same portion of the lift. And the initial response to this is to actually just go right back to the well of what got them where they were. And for most beginners, like the first thing they learn is volume. They kind of put a program together that looks like, we use squat as an example because I love the squat. So they take their comp squat, right? And they set up a normal progression, which you would typically see from most beginner lifters. Maybe they start off and it's a 3x5, and then it's a 4x5, and then it's a 5x5. So they've got their first 3 weeks, and then they probably do a deload in here, and then they start to ramp intensity up, and maybe they go with another 5x5 for that first week, and then a 5x4, and then a 5x3. Maybe they deload here again. And then they go 5x3, 5x2, and a 5x1, and then they have a test week, right? So now we test. What we see is, let's say they had that common fault of the hips rising early, bar gets pitched out in front of them, and they miss the weight. At the end of this, now as an intermediate lifter, they get to test, and their weight only goes up 5 to 10 pounds. But we see the same failure when they try to go past that, when they go from 225 to 230, and they miss. It's the same type of miss. The problem is if we go back and we run this again, we're going to get the same result. And I've seen this happen for multiple blocks for athletes. Athletes will come in, they'll show me what they've been doing, they'll show me their videos, and I'm like, okay, cool, what have you tried to do to correct this? And they just tackle more volume. Maybe they actually just start off with more volume, or they add an additional squat day, or they add more. And to solve this issue and to really kind of dive into it, we have to think outside of going back to the well, going back to what got us here. And we have to start thinking about, okay, how do I actually correct where I'm missing the weight? Not just increasing the weight itself, but how do I actually get better at squatting? And to start, I think the simplest thing to do is to not mess with any of this. I don't actually have a problem with this. This is like the first place people start to mess with things, is you start to mess with sets and reps and volumes and intensities and manipulate all those things. No, let's go simplest interaction. Let's go simplest variable change. And let's not do the comp squat. So in this particular instance, we're going to use the hips rising up again as an example. As a coach, I'm going to look at exercise selection as being like the top tier thing that I want to do. And instead of training comp squat repeatedly again, I'm not going to try to write with my left hand here. I'm going to go with a wider stance, higher bar position, squat. And I'm going to challenge the posterior chain, and I'm going to challenge their hips, and I'm going to challenge the things that aren't keeping up within the pattern of the way they're currently squatting. And then I'm going to let this play out, and I'm going to test again as an experiment. Because we have enough data that doing this again with a comp squat is probably going to result in a marginal increase, especially if they've done it multiple times, right? It's a variable. We've experimented with it plenty of times. You're not going to just suddenly strike oil with the same thing. So let's change the simplest variable. Let's run that program again, and then let's test it. I can tell you from what I've observed, I can show you hundreds of athletes that we've seen this result with. We make this simple change, and it immediately unfucks their squat. It immediately changes this test, and we see a greater increase in strength. We see a different fail point. A lot of the times it just gets stuck in the normal sticking point, and they're not able to get that overcoming strength to get past it. But typically we see a good increase in strength from this strategy. So, moral of the story, don't always go back to the well. If you're getting marginal strength increases, yes, like as an advanced elite lifter, those things are going to happen, but you're probably already past redoing this and you're already in this strategy. If you're an intermediate lifter and you're struggling and the only thing that you're changing is sets and reps, it's really a time to start looking at exercise selection as the next variable to go with. That's going to get you progress. That's going to stop you from stalling. That's what's going to lead you to higher strength levels. So, as usual, my name is John Flagg, owner of Rebuild Stronger, strength and conditioning and rehab company for powerlifters, for strength athletes. Follow for more. We're going to keep getting into this stuff.